What is innovation?
Innovation means searching out something new and innovate.
Innovation means a discovery plus invention.
Okay. All right. Can I
किसी
get
काम को करने के नए तौर तरीके.
okay?
Innovation is something
You
new
idea.
ideas, tools
Discover and invent, sir.
for the purpose of human mankind.
All right. Last input. Well, let's take another last input. Anybody? I hope I'm there with you on the line.
Your voice is breaking.
Innovation is something that which was not in the past. Something new.
All right.
किसी
Sir.
काम को प्रभावशाली ढंग से करने का नया तौर तरीका.
Okay. So let me give a situation.
From a new perspective.
A new perspective. Okay, let's stop at this in this particular intervention. New perspective. Okay. Now, when we talk about new perspective, let me give you a context. Suppose you want to bring some change in your institution. How would you do that?
So teaching methods, new teaching methods.
Okay, new teaching methods. Okay, fine. Next.
New technology used in teaching learning process.
Okay.
Change of strategies,
Integration of
Research publications.
changing strategies.
Okay. So
Taking inputs from the learner side as
And
well.
Something new assessment.
okay.
Develop new teaching learning environment.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm just getting some idea of how. Suppose, I mean, as I said, you want to bring some changes, you want to bring transformation. Now, from where do you get this innovative ideas?
from our day-to-day problems.
When we face problem.
Yes, go ahead. Then further.
So from our
When we
society,
face problem.
Okay.
sir, from our society,
By updating ourselves, sir.
Okay. I mean, have you heard about this concept called benchmark?
By updating ourselves, sir.
Okay.
With new ideas and new knowledge.
Okay. So, have you come across this term called benchmarking?
yes,
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, sir.
Anybody among
Benchmark-
participants have heard about this concept of benchmarking?
No,
yes,
sir.
sir, benchmark. I have heard, sir.
Yes. So what is your understanding of benchmarking?
That is very important. Very much important, which is very much important.
Okay. See, benchmarking is,
Benchmarking, they call it benchmarking decision making.
okay. Anybody else?
Very important, unique, etc.
All right. So if you want to bring a change in your institution, you are looking at some standards. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You look for
Yes,
some
sir.
standards.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there is a challenge. Now, if you try to, compare yourself with a standard, do you think you can really transform your institution?
Yes, sir.
Or is it the other way?
Yes, sir. A reference point means what I think is that a reference point is required from where we can learn that how to project and what to project for our students.
Absolutely. So, therefore, what happens is that it's a very good point that you mentioned, a reference point from where you want to go further or bring about new changes. Wonderful. Now, in other words, the idea of benchmarking is to match up to a standard, okay, or to go beyond. But the only danger is that when you benchmark, there is a problem because there is nothing much new emerges. And therefore, transformation becomes a problem. So our thinking strategy and our approach, it's always fine. Now, for example, the AI has come in, several teaching technology tools are there. Now, if we start borrowing and using them as it is, now we cannot make a difference. No innovations happen. We cannot develop a unique institution. So ultimately, the concept of quality is to create a unique institution, unique systems, unique processes. And therefore, there is a concept called the concept of anti-benchmarking. Because if you do benchmarking, it is a path of replication. You copy the other practices of other institutions, and therefore you don't give much scope for transformation. There are some best practices that are there in some institutions, so you bring them and try to implant them in the institution, but nothing much changes. But the challenge is, if you can create a new path, a different direction, and that direction is called anti-benchmarking. So you don't go through the standards that you're referring to, but you take a different path. And that is the path of innovation. And that is what is called benchmarking. And that is how quality sustains, quality is built, and that becomes the transformation magic that ordinary organizations can transform from just being an ordinary institution to exceptional.
Sir,
So it
your
applies.
PPT is not moving, sir.
Yes. I'm not moving deliberately for a minute. I'm coming back. I'm still at creating the base for today's lecture. So therefore, the idea is that how we move, how we can become from ordinary to exceptional. And that can happen when we think differently. That can happen when, the purposefully we design methods and strategies to move up and move forward. I think this is what is the thinking in higher education today. We need to design new things. We need to anti-benchmark. We need to create institutions of excellence, which are very unique, because context is different, culture is different, people are different, you've got different capabilities. Rather than trying to copy others, trying to only complete to certain standards, there should be a very strong thinking to change our perspectives differently, to play a different game. And that is what quality is all about. So having said that, let me move on. Why we are talking about quality today is because India has one of the largest and the diverse education systems in the world. And as all of you know, referring to the National Education Policy 1986 brought about a lot of change. And it was because of the National Policy 1986, the mandate of the NAC, which tremendously brought improvement across the various aspects of higher education. They made the crux of that of quality as quality assurance. I think we should not wait for any external agencies to assess us. I think why should I see, when you look at as a teacher, when you go to the classroom to lecture and teach, why should we wait for somebody to tell us externally that we have a certain quality and a certain level of teaching. And that is what is the concept of quality assurance. So it should be a inbuilt, self-built mechanism that comes within us. Now, for teachers to build quality, I think that drive that comes from within is critical. Similarly, for governance and for leadership, I don't think we have to wait for outside agencies to check our quality, but we need to assure quality. So quality assurance, if people and organizations understand that assuring quality is the key factor, I think we can definitely get a better ranking from anybody outside or any agency who wants to assure the functioning of higher education institutions. I think this philosophy of consciously, assuring quality should become a culture in an higher education institution. And who makes the culture? It is the faculty, it is the academic leadership, which should show the direction for this particular process. So therefore, we are looking at the 2020 national policy now, which very strongly advocates quality education. I think there are two important points for all of us who are in academics today. What does the student want tomorrow? I think I want to make one interesting statement. What they learn should enable them to what they earn tomorrow. So what they learn is a knowledge aspect, and what they can be capable of once they are out of graduation, the skills and the competence that they develop for a lifelong learning is very important. So what they learn to what they earn is a very important aspect of promoting quality. So in other words, the responsibility of every higher education institution is to enable individuals preparing for a lifelong learning. I think there are certain enabling factors which goes beyond or supports building of knowledge and skills. They include the physical infrastructure. I mean, responsibilities may be with different leadership in the organization. Who puts the physical infrastructure in place? The admissions, the curriculum design, the innovations in teaching and learning, assessment, and teacher quality. And therefore, and that's what the national policy, in a nutshell, focuses on with regard to quality. Now, having said that, we have a huge task. By 2030, we are now looking at not only the general concern of increasing the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, but we're looking at how, by 2030, the biggest challenge to realize equitable access to all learners, whichever socio-economic background that they come from. Across the policy, we're looking at the schools, colleges, and universities that, as a matter of fact, that learners should get equitable access. And it's a concern, and this needs our attention. And therefore, a topic like this and a discussion like this is very important, because faculty, the fulcrum of any educational institution, can bring about this transformation process. So what is quality? I think there may be several definitions, but this is a perspective which I want to share with you. Quality at its core is an internal aspiration. And this internal aspiration is what I mentioned, that consciously we think about bringing about quality assurance in our institutions. Now, this cannot happen unless the leadership provides suitable systems and processes. Our quality higher education requires adequate infrastructure, requires teaching, learning resources. Of course, liberal funding. From where are the funds going to come is something that we have to think about. At the same time, we also look free from excessive administrative burdens. And therefore, faculty members would focus on improving teaching, innovating pedagogy. They need to publish more and, of course, make the classroom very engaging. Bring rigor in the classroom. And therefore, I want to say that at its core, all this can happen only if there is an internal inspiration. Now, how is quality measured? Usually we use certain parameters, or we can call them as certain metrics. So determining quality and measuring quality based on certain metrics is still a challenge. So what we understand by measuring quality, we use certain criteria. And that is why I talked to you about the concept of benchmarking. And therefore, the usual approaches or the popular metric-based or the criteria-based approach. Now, for example, we had this classical metric system of assessing an institution. And therefore, if we are complying to that, and we are able to do related activities to that, I think to some extent we say that the institution is a quality institution. And therefore, measuring quality based on certain metrics is still a challenge. Now let me move on to a little fundamental thoughts on how I understand quality. So when we look at this metric-based assessment or standard-based assessment, we are challenged to conform to certain specifications. I don't know if there is a measuring standard for the quality of teaching. Probably today, with the number of Scopus publications, we determine that an institution and its faculty are of high quality. But coming back to the classroom, I think there's some disturbance. Requesting to switch off your microphones, please.
Dear friend, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic.
So coming back to the classroom, I think we need to think about, is it conformance to certain specifications? Because the invaluable time that the teacher engages with the students, I think really we do not have a metric to measure that. But probably there is an indication if there's an internal aspiration and inspiration and satisfaction for the teacher that I have done what I have to do for my students, that probably could be the way to determine, because our focus is on teacher education, that the teacher has delivered the goods. And therefore, when we say fitness for purpose, whether it's goods or services, now they must be capable of being used for the intended purpose for which they are produced. So quality means fitness for purpose. What is the intention behind a particular good or a service? The teaching service, the administrative service, the leadership and the governance in the organization. And quality is also refers to fitness for use. Now, the intended purpose is not enough, but the extent to which the product or the service serves the purpose of the user during the usage is very important. So that's the point of time when you have to look at the learning aspect. And therefore, when we talk about the parameters for fitness for use include the quality for design. Every lecture hour is a product of a design, and that design emerges from an innovation. And the ultimate process of this innovation and a design is to bring about a transformation. And in other words, we say, if these intentions are there, this purpose is there, then we refer to the quality of conformance. And the abilities and the field of service. So therefore, when we talk in terms of quality, it has to fulfill both the stated and the implied needs. The totality of characteristics of an entity, of a quality entity, that bears on its ability to satisfy stated and implied needs. So now you will understand that how important is the role of the quality, role of the faculty in delivering quality lectures. Now, quality is such a concept, it's not very easy to achieve, because whether you are delivering a product or a service, we are looking at learners, we're looking at students, the society in general, as the larger customers of our service. And their expectations are not static, it's ever changing. And meeting that ever-changing needs and expectations of customers is a real challenge for every institution, for every teacher. And therefore, anticipating the future needs and satisfying these needs become critical, and then only you can define quality. Now, there is a concept called delight. I think something different from mere satisfying the students. In other words, the customer. Now, sorry to use this management term in education, but the point is that I want to drive home that every parent is a customer, every student is a customer. Now we can satisfy them. Maybe you finish, okay, 60 hours of lecture, but what is the difference between satisfaction and delight? So delight is something, an experience that they will never forget for their lifetime. Or probably, if you want to differentiate between these two, for example, you want to go to you can eat masala dosa in any hotel just to fulfill your hunger. But sometimes there are certain eateries and certain places where you go to eat and remember that, and you want to go back again. And therefore, students are like that, and our teaching, learning, delivery is like that. And that is why we say in quality language, the customer is the king, the learner is the king. Otherwise, we are going to have systemic problems. Just to throw some light on quality. So we can say quality is an attribute. And quality is contextual. Quality may be subjective. Quality is also objective. When you talk in terms of metrics and standards and benchmarking. And therefore, it's very difficult to define. And as I mentioned, every next day, the students are expecting new things. The students are changing very fast. But do you think the faculty are also changing equally? And therefore, quality, to define quality, is to move along with these changes. And quality is a habit. It just not happens today and the day after tomorrow. It has to happen every day. Because going one point beyond quality is what we talk in terms of excellence. So I'm bringing in a new concept now, excellence. What is beyond excellence? I can't define. Probably we can say that we can perform to the best of our capabilities. And that is why quality is a very eluding state. And because it's so dynamic, the context is dynamic, and therefore quality is a journey and not a destination. So all of us are trying to do our best to make our institutions to the best possible accreditation scores by improving our NIR rankings, our world rankings. It's all a matter of journey. And no organization in the world could say that they have reached a destination with regard to quality. And that is why I discussed with you that the whole process of transformation. The transformation begins with innovation. And the basis for innovation is a different kind of thinking pattern, a different kind of a designing our thinking. And it cannot be brought in from an external force. It has to emerge from within. We have to be conscious to bring about this change and transformation, which is a hallmark of quality. And so quality, see, when we look at our institutions, it is not enough if only teachers teach well, as I mentioned. It goes much beyond. We look at the infrastructure, we look at the campus life, we look at the faculty culture, the academic culture, the organization climate, the institutional climate. And therefore, everything is connected. And that's why we say is all pervasive. See, when we talk about infrastructure, teachers' facilities are important. Little do we realize that their health is important. If teachers are healthy, teacher absenteeism will be low. Similarly, students, the campus, even the security people in the campuses are very important, because they determine the culture of the organization. Because everybody is a professional and everybody has got a role to play. And that is what is called the concept of total quality. So quality does not happen in silos. It is something which is total. And when we try to look at this term within this three alphabets, TQM, Q looks at quality, excellence, or simply we can say goodness. Very difficult to define. And therefore, this total or the complete, all-pervasive quality that you want to promote requires a management system. And as I said, management system. And it has to be dealt competently, systematically, on a day-to-day basis. So you cannot have quality today and no quality tomorrow. It has to be sustained. So therefore, TQM itself is a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. Of course, thinking leading to practice. And therefore, experts in the field look at this as a management approach. And who can make this quality? Quality is all pervasive, total, whole. And we really do not know what the destination is. But the people involved in the process of total quality, or simply to put it, quality, requires the active participation of all the members. And what we're looking at is a long-term change, a long-term success. And you cannot reach there without satisfying your customer and with benefits to the stakeholders. That is why when we look at the national policy which stresses, I think this is one of the best things to happen for the country and for all of us who are in this process of building the nation, we need to be aware that are we satisfying our customers and the stakeholders. See, the government is also a stakeholder in this whole process. Maybe responsibility of educating specialists is given to the higher education sector. And so all of us are involved in higher education will have to take this responsibility. Now, probably let me highlight some of the principles. Maybe this is for some learning, and though it looks a little bit from the management perspective, but as I said, it has to become in sync with our own internal aspiration. So certain principles for quality to work include customer focused. That means whatever we want to do, we have to look at who the key beneficiary is. The students, the parents, the society. And therefore, there are two things that happen in an organization. Either you're a leader or you're an enabling person to that leadership. And therefore, looking from the eye of the leadership, there should be unity of purpose and direction of the organization. So we need good leadership. That is why in the NAC criteria, you've got one important criteria called leadership and governance. How does that happen? Does the management provides a vision? What is the vision? Vision for the students, vision for the faculty, vision for the society, vision for the nation. And this cannot just happen like that. It should be the involvement of people. I think there's a lot of meaning behind this word of involvement. It is just not people just reporting to institutions on an attendance basis, but involvement is involving in research, involving in teaching, involving in publications, involving in bringing about a good environment for students. And one of the principles of quality is it is a process it's a process approach. What is the process? Process involves when all the related resources and activities are managed effectively and systematically in a step-by-step process. And we look at the organization, the institution as a system. And therefore, what are the processes within that is interrelated. And therefore, when there is this process functioning, there could be, that it requires improvement. Because all may not be going well. And therefore, that mindset that we have to improve processes, or what we call as continual improvement, is very critical, a key aspect. Without these principles, we cannot promote quality. And when decisions are made, decisions cannot be whimsical, even from the leadership governance. Look at the inspiration from the national policy in the government. They made a conscious decision that this policy is to be introduced, experts were consulted, and that is what is the factual approach to decision making. And so decisions need to be based on data. How do you promote a faculty? How do you appoint people in several positions? It has to be based on data. In that context, quality is very objective. It cannot be subjective. And one of the key principles is that there's a mutual beneficial supplier relationship. Now, organization cannot or institutions cannot function by itself. It has to relate to several constituents of that institution. Because this supplier relationship enables what is called as to create value. Well, this continual improvement, in order to promote quality, there should be a conscious updation of the status and then move towards a state of improvement. And this is a continuous process, an ongoing effort, whether it's in an industry, whether it is in services. You look at the way now the airlines, they're looking at how they can improve the process. If they lose the confidence of the people, I think the trust between the beneficiary and the supplier is broken. So if it can happens to airlines and the industry there, it can happen to education too. So that's why bringing in reference from Deming, he said how to work upon this improvement. He introduced a very interesting concept called the feedback. Maybe in education, we call this as appraisals. How well we teach, how well we relate. So we have got a 360 degrees approach, appraisal system, whereby feedback from the process and the customer are again are evaluated against the organization goals and objectives. So feedback is very important, and we should take feedback in a positive direction. Okay, this time I got a very low score in terms of my student evaluating me. Rather than blaming the students, I think we'll have to reflect, where did I go wrong? Because quality assurance is the key. And we need to move on. Now let me go a little more fast. In this whole process, now these are not things that are happening only in industries. It happens in education too. So for every processes, we need to plan and we need to do, in other words, a kind of a pilot, and then get inputs from that pilot. Then we need to check, and then we need to act, the final act. So if you're introducing a new methodology, you plan, you test, and check what the preliminary results are. And then before you make it into a practice, and then a policy and a practice. So that's how quality will improve. Now let me give you one more reference, a very interesting 5 principles introduced by Sadhguru. Very interestingly say, focus on the customer, focus on the learner. Do it right. But I would add and say, Do it right the first time and all the time. Teach best the first time and all the time. Communicate and educate. So one of the hallmarks in building up quality is to communicate within the members. And then we have to measure and record. And as I said, quality is all pervasive, includes all members. We need to do it together. So these are the 5 key principles put forth by Sadhguru, and I'm sure that we could try and imbibe this and make some sense of it. Now, having talked about quality, which is the first part of my discussion, though I've not gone into length, but it gives us some directions as to how we look at quality in higher education. Do we have some quality concerns and challenges? Yes. I'm just bringing in these 5 principles again. Be customer focused. Our aim is to promote quality students. As I said, what they learn should be connected to what they earn. Knowledge, skills, and competencies. Of course, there are a whole lot of other things in the lifelong learning process. The emotional aspect, we want good citizens. We want a good husband and wife tomorrow. We want the next generation of ours good children. And in this process, there is do it right, no scope for error. And everybody should be involved. And this requires trust and confidence. You have to take everybody together. And performance will have to be checked at different levels. You may call it appraisals. You may call it audits. The government is, what is the government telling? We have a civilization to manage through the policy. And that civilization, what it is going to be tomorrow, you and I won't know. We never know what the future is. But only thing that we know is that the future is very dramatic. It is something that we can never think of. So we have to teach with that focus in mind. And that is why these appraisals, this evaluation, stage by stage evaluation at every stage is important. And as I said, we could do it only together. So it involves top management to the bottom must be involved. So let's look at our institutions a little differently now. It's not only the top administration can take the responsibility, it is the classrooms, it's the administrative offices, it is the bus service, everything in the institution, the campus life, everything adds to a quality institution. And efforts made towards that. So therefore, total quality of quality is a long-term strategy for institution. Though it is not possible to reach that. But remember the philosophy, quality is a journey and not a destination. And we may not see the tangible results. Just go back when you get back to institutions and reflect, go back to the annals of history of institution and see how an institution was at one point of time. Look at the infrastructure, look at the student strength, look at the faculty strength. But building up this long-term strategy is a relevant strategy for success, and we need to be open to it. And I'm sure that you have discussed several inputs as part of this course. But the very critical aspect is that quality is something which is very inspirational. It is from within. And therefore, quality talks about search for excellence. Now we're moving from the concept of quality to excellence. Probably when you look at excellence, you're looking at that you reach the helm of affairs. You're probably optimizing customer satisfaction. You're giving maximum what you can. But I'm putting it with a question. What is that maximum? We don't know. Satisfying the customer the first time and every time, first lecture throughout the year. Good result this year, throughout the decade. And involving people in the organization. And one of the aspects is that no wastage of time, no wastage of money and effort. So therefore, quality as a system, when we talk about system, it has an input, it has a process and output. Teaching, learning as an input. Curriculum, teachers' ability to deliver, and the good results. Results not in terms of marks alone, the competence, the real output that you create. So it's a system. And these are connected. So maybe that's why in most of the quality frameworks, you have this key aspect, input, process, and output. And there is on the top, there is something called an organizational structure, and the bottom, you have something called a feedback mechanism. The feedback is very critical because to tell you in the input process, which includes governance and leadership, etc., is it going all right? And therefore, feedback is required to improve those processes, and therefore the continual improvement process comes in. So your input includes all these aspects: faculty, infrastructure, leadership, socioeconomic context from where you come from. Different people come from different, especially in the north, so different the context. The south is different, west is different, east is different, but in this beautiful country. So that's input. And the process includes, as I said, the sequential steps that are employed, the actions that you take. So therefore, over-dependence on the traditional teaching methods, we have to innovate. Now we have got technology, we have got the AI technology that is coming. How do we sustain and adapt? Now we cannot just say that AI is something, which can, but we have to live with this new developments. We don't know what else is coming. So to put it in a very simple way, we talked about blended learning models. See, today I'm able to speak to you because of a technology through an online process. So institutions should think to bring the best expert from any part of the world. Now today with AI, there is more scope for learning. There's an information floodgate opening up. So you can design processes for personalized learning. With technology improving, there is cost-effective edtech solutions to reduce operational costs. Look at the way we book our railway tickets today. Life is changing. And so when systems outside in the context is changing, even the education system will have to change. And therefore, we should be keen in improving the process within. Otherwise, we will be left behind. And what are the outcomes? We have to be very clear with what kind of competencies. We talk about outcome-based education. What is outcome-based education? We are looking at certain clear competencies and outcomes. We need not have to go in. When you design a program, there is something called a backward design concept. We should think not first designing the curriculum and then think what the students will gain. First, think what the students want and then define the objectives. Based on that, you design your curriculum, your assessment process, and then the outcomes. So outcomes include the content, the knowledge. So we may have varying degree of knowledge and content. The very fact of improving teacher quality is to update ourselves through research and publication by going to training programs like this, improving our skills, communication skills. Students will just love you if you can communicate well. You make a complex concept very simple. Use various types of assessment methods. Today, you've got technology to assess you fast, just to excite students what they can learn. Then, of course, attitude, the emotions, the mindfulness. See, teaching is emotional. What does it mean? In a real classroom experience, are you making the student happy? This is all going well. So attitude is very important. And in terms of our interaction with students, are they empowered, developed, confidence, interests? Do they feel valued? And as I said, are they linked to the process and are they seeing the outcome clear? You just have to visit and see some best practices of some of the IITs, some of the management institutions. They're very clear on what they want their products to be. So what's the impact of quality on quality? Students lack exposure to modern teaching today, learning methods. They're only depending upon a good lecture, the traditional mode. Can we innovate? Can we bring in case study approach? I think today we are losing the concept of teaching, but more towards learning. I think there's a very strong debate even today, whether it's pedagogy in higher education or is it andragogy in higher education. Now, when we look at pedagogy, we are basically looking at the students sitting there and depending to be directed, to be taught by you. But andragogy approaches are different. We talk about learner-centered approach. When they take the center stage, they are involved, engaged, they go through a process of inquiry, they go through a process of reflection, and then they take action. So the higher operational costs make quality education expensive. And limited scalability of education programs. These are all impact of quality. You have to change your traditional subjects. New subjects are emerging. New domains are appearing. So institutions will have to change. Within a subject, new concepts. I'm sure that participants may be from affiliated colleges, maybe from universities which has got more power to make decisions on curriculum design. I think there should be conscious effort to bring about. Otherwise, we have to expand the scope of our educational programs in terms of competencies and outcomes. Yeah. Now that's the part with which largely concerning what should be quality in higher education and how we operate as people involved in the field that we are all in. Let's look at certain concerns and challenges. I think that is the most important aspect today. So when we're looking at the concerns and challenges, the first concern is the absence of a self-sustainable model. I think we have to realize that higher education is the only thing and the most important thing in order to bring about social and economic development. And therefore, it may not be happening because the struggle to maintain quality due to the absence of this model. Why? Because institutions which are private, institutions which are affiliated, are partially government aided. We are depending upon government funding. We are looking at external funding. There's inconsistent revenue streams. And at the same time, inefficient resource utilization that prevents a long-term sustainability. So we have to change this. So that's the first important concern. So how we can make our education more sustainable? As I said, a lot of more insights into most higher education institutions, as I said, are depending upon the government, then philanthropic work, donations, and tuition fees. But we need to explore alternate means. Now, one of the biggest things is that in the Western countries, it's the faculty which brings resources to the organization. So you can reflect and ask, can I as a faculty, what kind of projects that I can write? Because you have a capability. You are a resource in yourself. Look at big projects. Projects vary from a few lakhs to crores. It's happening in our university. Grants are there. Now, every grant being brought to every department is a leverage towards quality. It's a leverage towards student exposure and institution benefits. So one of the key challenge is, can faculty bring funds? Please reflect upon that. I'll leave it to you. Many times, quality is practice-linked performance. What do I mean? There is no correlation between practice and performance. Okay, accreditation is there. You've got 7 criteria. And now the new maturity model is coming up. And then you're matching your practice to performance. So what you're practicing and what you're performing, there's no correlation. So when you talk about quality assurance, why we have problem with assurance? Because there's a lack of correlation between institutional practices and actual student performance. Results are low because the input is a problem. So think about this idea, practice-linked performance, how you can narrow the gap. Then there is something called the common problem, a major concern, superficial compliance with quality standards. Now, most of the time, when there is a requirement for compliance to regulating agencies, there's a tendency for institution to focus only on meeting accreditation, requirements, and rankings, rather than improving the actual teaching and learning quality. Can you go beyond this? I think there's somebody whose microphone is on. So can we move away from this? That's why I started with telling you that effort should be towards quality assurance. Then we have got assessment methods that do not reflect learning. Now, the continuous assessment. If you take, for example, inefficient faculty development programs. Sorry, I think there is a disturbance. Somebody's microphone is on. Hello?
Sir, your mic is on.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Somebody's mic is on. I'm getting a disturbance here, sir. Requesting everybody to turn off your microphones, please.
Sir, your mic is on. Dr. Balu.
So this ineffective faculty development, the lack of student engagement and feedback mechanisms. I think still the mic is on. I'm getting a lot of disturbance.
Balmukund sir, your mic is still on.
Participants, please mute your mic. Mute your mic. Please.
All right. No. Still the mic is on. Somebody's mic is on. Yeah.
आप हो गए.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So therefore, lack of student engagement and feedback mechanism, then inefficiency in research and innovation. Now that's where I said, these are some of the concerns that comes in the hurdle of promoting quality. So what to do to improve the correlation between practice and performance? I think the key aspect is to shift from a policy-driven to a performance-driven approach. So what do I mean by that? Yes, policies are there. Now, does every policy convert itself into a practice? And what policies are made will have to be realized through the performance. And it won't just happen. We have to continuously assess. There should be continuous assessment of teaching impact on curriculum, relevance, student engagement, and one of the key aspects is the real world applicability. And therefore, we should not go and satisfy only the regulatory requirements. So therefore, when we really map quality in higher education, it should be measured not just by institutional efforts, but by the actual success and readiness of graduates. That's exactly what I mentioned, what they learn today. I'm not saying what we teach today. What they learn today should be related to what they earn in their professional and personal lives. Then, quality for academic purposes, not from financial goals. This is another approach. For example, you're organizing several conferences. Maybe you're producing 3 or 5 events. Now, this 3 or 5 events, is it because there is a regulatory agency asking you how many people attended conferences, how many people attended the refresher programs. See, that may be a regular, that's why I mentioned we have to move towards performance. Did this refresher course benefit you in any way? Not because you need this for your promotion or for complying to NAC and AICT or NBA or any accreditation boards or the UGC. So you have to look at what are the non-tangible benefits. Suppose you organize a conference, you are coming to this refresher course, or you're organizing one. What is new? What is the value addition? Does it help you to produce new projects? Does it help you to write a new paper? There is somebody on the mic, please. Please switch off the mic, please. All right. So let me go a little more fast now. So let's not be data driven and not impact oriented. And so we should move from a mere superficial compliance with standards.
Please mute your mic, dear friends.
Mute the microphones, please.
हाँ, please mute your mic. आवाज आती है तो disturbance होता है.
And therefore, the lack of student approaches is another problem. Now, let us go into a little more aspects as I'm coming towards the end of this presentation. Limited stakeholder involvement. Now, we need everybody, the government, the leaders, the deans, the directors, head of the departments, everybody to be involved in this promotion of quality. And we should do away with the short-term success, but look at long-term impact. And we have to utilize data for decision making. All right. So therefore, institutions should shift from the focus on data collection and compliance towards quality improvement strategies that prioritize real impact. And this requires a long-term planning, long-term alignment with what is happening in the context. What are students' needs, labor markets, and the societal progress. All right. So one of the things that I want to mention is that there's a huge disconnect between academic quality reports and financial goals. That means huge gap between academic and financial priorities. Yes, finance is critical for promoting quality, and therefore the overemphasis on compliance rather than improvement is another problem. And we are faced with resource constraints and cost pressures. So what we look at in reports, there's a huge variation between reports and the financial goals. I think today, if you want to promote a quality institution, you have to bring and connect the financial goals in promoting what is called as quality. And then I said already, performance metrics versus institutional vision, market-driven versus academic excellence debate, and short-term financial gains versus long-term quality. They're all critical. There's a certain kind of challenges that we face today. So when I mean performance metrics, just don't go by the 7 criteria or criteria of any requirement, but look at an institutional vision. Building, that's why I said in the beginning, we need to look at a path of innovation, which is different, going away in a different direction from a benchmarking process. So let me look at some solutions, how you can bridge academic and financial goals. First thing is that there should be an integrated planning. So you look at quality assurance with such financial stability, and therefore you have to find mechanism to generate funds through strategic governance. You look at outcome-based financing, linking funding to real learning outcomes rather than just compliance. And stakeholder engagement. So all of them should come together. And technology innovation, of course, now using AI, digital tools, so that should optimize and enhance both quality and cost efficiency. I think these are some of the steps. Now, I won't dwell much into the outdated pedagogical practices, because now we know that curriculum has to improve, and I think I hope universities and colleges are hearing the curriculum and industry needs will have to be tapped. Okay, and then sometimes within an institution there's no common governance framework, right? And if you're looking at an institutional framework, that is data, where data is generated not only for NAC or for AICTE norms, but for improving performance, that would be wonderful. So we should not produce data which is because the head of the department is asking or some stakeholders are asking for it, and that will lead to a mismatch between alignment. There's no alignment of the metrics. But what is important is that people should find value and relevance. That's a key aspect. Okay, so therefore one of the major challenges that we find today and a concern is that quality is not supported by data, and data is for initiatives, not from an impact and benefits. As I told you, if you're running a number of conferences, you see how it can enable you to bring one project should enable you to do multiple projects. I think I don't have much to share with you beyond this point. I've spoken very clearly, and one of the things that I wanted to say is somewhere, since faculty are attending this program, I think quality should be led by management. They should work upon self-sustenance, plan and control numerical data, not language data. Don't use the word good, interest, but showed by data and facts. And the principle of 70-30 is very critical. The contributing members in this whole process, the real numbers will have to be worked up, and it has to be people-driven rather than process. An absence of organizational structures and responsibilities, how do we try to define and the tray to balance? And most important, focus on the elements of that. All right, so I will stop here and take some questions.
So dear friends, house is open for discussion and your questions, please.
Yes, please, any questions? Somebody's microphone is on. Now it's time to switch on a microphone and have some discussion.
Sir, one
Yes,
point
please
has
ask the question.
no correlation between practice and performance.
Yes, you have something to tell about it?
What is main causes of this, or why, which type of measure we occupy this error is improved?
So can you be a little more clear? I'm not able to hear you.
Sir, no correlation between practice and performance. You have tell me one PPT.
Yeah. So
Yes,
what
is the main cause of
Come again, sir?
What
Main-
is the main cause for this?
Main causes, exactly. See, when institutions make policies, when they introduce new programs, so it should not be just for the sake of introducing a program. So it has to be, realized in terms of how much you achieve from that. And that is what is the performance that you need to determine. So suppose you're bringing in technology in place, it should not just be a practice, but how is it going to improve your performance? Delivering better classes. It's very easy for the management to introduce technology as a practice. Okay, it's very easy to bring the outcome-based education as a practice. But what is the performance? That has to be emphasized. Yes, sir.
Thank
I hope I have answered your question.
you. Okay, sir.
Hope it was relevant to all of you what I spoke today. Yes, there is one question that has come up on the message. What is your opinion of? I think UGC is not. Yes, Dr. Afroz. I think UGC's regarding quality publications of the past decades. They introduced and approved. I'm reading it out for the benefit of others. List of journals. See, I think they're doing the right thing. Because as I said, the fulcrum of an education institution is the faculty. Unless they publish, our education system won't improve. Students won't gain. And so, therefore, you need to make better effort to look at quality publications. Now, I think people are into the culture of publication. Now we're moving into, Q1, Q2. Because you're capable and you should make effort towards, and that's what UGC's message is. I don't think if they are looking at the list, I'm sure that I think they are also delisting journals which are not up to the standard. What was there in the last year is not there in this year. That means they're also subject to some standards. Let's appreciate this effort of the UGC to enhance publications. Otherwise, we won't survive in this huge struggle for quality. Quality management in college is a big issue. Yes, of course. I think I gave you a broad framework, and these are all practical issues that may confront. And that is why I said you need to build a unique institution. I agree with you. Let's do it. We have to find our own methods to do it. I hope I made some contribution to this course for all of you to think a little differently the way we conduct ourselves in the institutions. Money is a great order, agreed. So bring funding to write projects, get grants, and there are publishers who publish without any cost. Agreed. All those points taken. Dr. Das, yes. Government wants performance but not funding. So, but every faculty is capable of bringing funding. That's why I said this is a problem. I think, I'm not saying no. So you look at government fundings itself. See, every department is unique. Can we generate funds through the department, through individual faculty. Yeah, very relevant questions that are coming up. Yes, madam, everybody's silent. Nobody's raising any questions. I hope all of you are there in the session. I could see about 135 members on the...
Sir, there is a question from my side.
Yes.
ज्यादातर स्टूडेंट्स सरकारी सर्विस की तरफ मूव करने के लिए तैयार रहते हैं, इवन जो टेक्निकल फील्ड में वो भी, तो हम उनके प्रति किस तरह से स्टूडेंट सेंट्रिक करिकुलम बना सकते हैं?
I think if I put it correct, how you can make student-centric curriculum. See,
yes.
Yeah, I already mentioned that. See, you're in an affiliated college or in an autonomous college or in a university?
Affiliated college.
Yeah, so if it's affiliated college, I think you have to find some method to communicate to your board of studies in the university. As an individual, you can represent this and see that the curriculum is, that's why I said, it has to be much to the need of what the students want. The curriculum has to go in line with what the market is. So therefore, in affiliated colleges, those who are representing, you will have to find methods to impress upon your board in the university to bring changes. So look at new concepts, new content, new methodologies to deliver that. Agreed. So we have to make some effort. What the students want. Yes, Shampa madam.
Sir, I want to ask this literature course you about in morning. Sridevi ma'am also told about outcome-based education. You also told about outcome-based education. Means education after the end of the course of the after end. Today is our end session. So can we call this an outcome-based education program? This refresher course.
Oh, I think if you are matching with your what your objectives were stated, and if you had met, if it had satisfied your results.
Yes, I want to ask, can we call our RC program or the subjective refresher course as an outcome-based education program, according to you?
Yeah, this is with regard to why this program was designed and what were the key takeaways that the faculty were anticipating. And if you have enriched yourself, yes, it is an outcome-based.
Because the key features are teacher education, ICT-based education. So can we can call it an outcome-based education, this refresher course, right?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
Any more questions coming my way?
Sir, government job market is very low and slow. The coming generation wants to go into government direction. What will be the future, sir?
That I too cannot answer your question now. So all that we can do in education is to revamp our curriculum, get industry consultants on board, You're an affiliated college?
Yes, sir.
So being an affiliated college, I think the university leadership will have to think what are the kind of innovation. That's why I started today. So it's a huge transformation, as you said. So why should we produce degrees which may not fetch jobs for the students tomorrow? Very clearly I said, what you learn should enable them to what they earn. It's a huge statement, but the processes you'll have to focus.
But the factories and industries are not, sir, in the, we can say, near the college. They are far, far away from that college.
So let them go to America, let them go to Europe. Why are you worried? You produce for a different market, for the global market. Make your curriculum which is global. Internationalize your curriculum. Internationalize your career. Have you thought about what are the skills required for your students to operate in a global environment? That is what curriculum experts should do. Are you giving opportunities for them for that? Most of the time, students flourish because of their own competence, but there should be a strategy to build this. There's a lot to think about it. And I'm sure that professor like Bhaskar, right? Banu Bhaskar will do something about this.
Of course, sir, we have to develop a new atmosphere.
Yes, point well taken. There should be discussions in the institution.
Because our system is running as it is always, but we have to make a change.
Absolutely, agreed. Wonderful.
It will be motivate coming student to go for certain different areas, then they can.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right,
So-
thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Any question? So thank you very much, Professor Kennedy Andrew.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm really highly obliged.
Thank you, sir, so
You have
much.
question?
Thank you,
just
sir.
a small one.
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
बताइए, please tell me the
Thank you,
question.
sir.
Hello, sir. Means I have a question regarding the subjects which have field trips. I myself am from geography. So the
Yeah.
students in our curriculum, there is an extensive field trip in semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, semester 4, means all the 4 which are ongoing. So can we say that it is an outcome-based program because they go for a field trip, we accompany them, they ask questionnaires, they do the physical survey with the theodolite, dumpy level instruments, and then when they come back, they design their table in Microsoft Excel, Word, etc., and make a copy of that. Is it an outcome-based program then?
Actually, I don't want to dwell into, that's a different domain to be dealt with. So when we're looking at outcome-based education, you have to define what your outcomes are with regard to several aspects of learning competencies. Like you've got knowledge, skill, application, etc., etc. And so, if your field trips, if your teaching, learning meets these objectives and you're able to realize it, if you say certain competencies are your outcomes that you're listed and you're testing them and you're assessing them on that, then definitely you need to.
If I got right, for example, if we are assessing them on, say, riverbank erosion in Purbo Medinipur district. So that riverbank erosion, for that riverbank erosion, they are forming questionnaire for cultural and socioeconomic survey and also one for physical survey. Then we can say that the outcomes are met.
Yeah, I understood, madam. But in your curriculum, what are the course outcomes you are specifying? You can
Okay.
make course outcomes or objectives very old ones, which may not be relevant. So if
Okay.
you are stating a new set of objectives or outcomes, of course, um, uh, of course, um, outcomes, and you realize that through that curriculum, then you're able to achieve it through a proper assessment mechanism. Then it becomes a course outcome based.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
You can plan, you can design.
Okay, got your point. Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Professor Kennedy Andrew. I'm highly obliged that in spite of your busy schedule, you consented and delivered such an insightful lecture. We are very much enlightened by your words. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
So,
Yeah.
yes, thank you.
Pranam,
So,
sir.
so
Ma'am.
dear
Thank you,
participants, it was the
Thank
last
you.
session of your course, and now
Thank you, ma'am.
your efforts, your hard work, everything has been successfully completed, and we have a validity session at 4 o'clock. So you all are requested to join, and you can present your ideas that you have, but in brief, 2 or 3 lines only. So till then, goodbye. I will provide you link also, the validity session. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
क्या हो रहा डॉक्टर?
बस कंप्लीट हो गया सक्सेसफुली।
कंप्लीटेड? बस मजे करो। चलो फिर 4 बजे मिलते हैं।
ठीक सर।
ओके।